The trial of one of the biggest names in showbiz is underway, and it's not about music. It's about serious charges, human trafficking, violence, and racketeering. The key witness? His former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, who is now 8 months pregnant, and she's already given powerful testimony. I'm Froginator from Swamp Media, and today we're breaking down everything happening in the courtroom and why the whole internet can't stop talking about it. It's only been 6 months since Diddy was arrested, but it feels like we've been waiting forever for this moment. Back last fall, when the news first broke, I said, no big conclusions until the trial starts. Now, it all kicked off on May 5th. The real drama has begun. We're in for an 8-week legal marathon. Diddy is charged with human trafficking for sexual exploitation and racketeering. The biggest part of the prosecution's case is his ex, Cassie Ventura, who has already testified. Despite being 8 months pregnant, she faced tough cross-examination from Combs' lawyers, all rushed to wrap up before she gives birth. But Cassie isn't the only one speaking out. New witnesses and shocking details are already coming to light. Let's dive in. Diddy's trial is being held behind closed doors, and this completely changes the game. There are no cameras, no TV crews, no live broadcasts in the courtroom. This isn't some reality show like Johnny vs. Amber. This is a serious federal criminal case conducted under the strictest rules. All the information we get comes either from official statements by lawyers and prosecutors or from live text transcripts written by reporters who have special clearance to be inside the courtroom. Yes, a transcript means a reporter is literally typing or writing down everything that happens in court, and that's the only way we can get a glimpse of what's really going on inside. Instead of photos, we only have courtroom sketches since cameras are completely banned. It's a total media blackout. Honestly, I'm surprised that any text even gets out at all. But the buzz around this case is so huge that trying to keep everything secret would be risky. Rumors would flood the internet. Right now, the sources on the Diddy case are a real mess. There's a lot of rumors, more documents keep popping up online, but not all of it is official. So if you see a new document or a leak somewhere, make sure to double-check it, especially if it's not from a trusted archive. Personally, I dig through the public federal court database where the trial is happening, and yes, you can find real case materials there. You just log in. And if you know what to look for, there are some very interesting files available. As of today, here are the key documents publicly accessible that are really worth attention. The main indictment against Diddy, which was filed last fall. Lawsuits from Cassie Ventura, Lil Rod, Don Richard, and even one anonymous plaintiff known as Jane Doe. So far, this is basically the foundation for the whole public story. Everything else is either rumors or interpretations. Okay, if you think the trial against Diddy is just another celebrity scandal, think again. This is way more serious. He's been charged under a federal law called RICO, and that's a whole different level. The kind of law used against the mafia and organized crime gangs. RICO isn't just any law. It's a powerful government tool designed to go after organized crime. The acronym stands for Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, and it was passed back in 1970. What's the point? To hold accountable not only those who commit crimes, but also the people running the whole criminal operation. This isn't about a one-time offense. It's about systemic, ongoing criminal activity. And that's exactly what the prosecutors claim. That Diddy didn't just make a mistake, he built an entire network that exploited women for years. Usually cases like this involve multiple defendants, but right now there's only one on trial. Though people online are joking. One? That's Diddy, Brother Love, and Sean Combs, at least 3. Jokes aside, the stakes are high. Cases like this are massive dramas with thousands of pages of evidence and dozens of witnesses. And at the center of it all are 12 ordinary jurors who have to decide, guilty or not guilty. The trial is happening right in the heart of New York City, at the U.S. Federal District Court for the Southern District of New York, located in Lower Manhattan. This court is famous for handling some of the most high-profile and headline-making cases because it's right next to the financial hub, Wall Street. It's within these walls that the fates of some of the biggest figures and corporations are decided. So when you hear about this case, remember, it's unfolding at the epicenter of American justice and financial power. The trial is being overseen by Judge Aaron Subramanian, a strict and experienced federal judge. To keep things simple, I'll refer to the two sides as the defense, Diddy's lawyers, and the prosecution, the lawyers representing the victims. The lead prosecutor is Maurene Comey. Remember that name! According to journalists in the courtroom, she looks like she hasn't slept in days, as if she's been flipping through case files all night. And that's no surprise. Maurene Comey isn't new to fighting criminal networks. She was a lead prosecutor in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, tied to Jeffrey Epstein, and now she's leading this high-profile case involving sexual exploitation. In one of her statements, Maurene criticized the defense's attempts to paint Ghislaine as someone who didn't know about her partner and friends abusing minors for decades. She was in the room and knew exactly what was going on, the prosecutor said. That's why it's time to hold her accountable. For now, all those names, from Jay-Z to Oprah, are just rumors and speculation. But Maurene Comey is determined to get to the truth and leave no one out. An interesting fact: Maurene Comey is the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey. The legal world is like home for her. She's worked in one of the most prestigious federal courts overseeing New York's financial center, handling complex cases involving major corporations and Wall Street. Among her notable cases is the investigation of a former Columbia University gynecologist accused of sexual harassment against patients. The prosecution team includes 5 assistant U.S. attorneys, all women with extensive experience and impressive track records. Emily Ann Johnson, a powerful speaker who clearly shows how Sean Combs used his influence and money to exploit women. Meredith Foster, an expert in corruption cases, known for investigations of bribery and fraud in New York. Mary Christine Slavic, specializes in drug trafficking and arms smuggling, involved in high-profile cases against crime bosses. Madison Reddick Smizer, skilled in major fraud and mail crimes, also works on illegal arms trade cases. Mitzi Steiner, another seasoned prosecutor with a rich background in criminal investigations. The defense is made up of a team of experienced lawyers, with the key players being Mark Agnifilo and Tenny Garagos. These 2 attorneys play a central role in defending Sean Combs. Mark Agnifilo is the lead defense lawyer. He's known for high-profile cases, such as defending Keith Raniere, the founder of a notorious sex cult. Mark and his wife Karen, also a lawyer, handled the case of Luigi Mangione, the Italian man accused of murdering the head of United Healthcare Insurance. Regarding Combs' defense, Agnifilo argues that the charges are really about Sean's personal sexual preferences, not a federal crime. The defense claims Sean lived a swinger lifestyle, and everyone involved consented, with various intimate practices being used. But everything was voluntary. In other words, the defense tries to portray the alleged victims as willing participants who benefited from their relationships with Diddy, aiming to shift all responsibility away from him. The second key figure is Tenny Garagos, co-lead defense attorney and daughter of the famous Mark Garagos. Tony's father is a well-known media lawyer in the U.S., having handled cases like Chris Brown, connected to the Rihanna incident, Michael Jackson's 2003 abuse allegations, Winona Ryder's 2002 shoplifting case, as well as Scott Peterson and Jussie Smollett. Mark Garagos is currently a consultant on Diddy's case. Not the main lawyer, but his influence is clear. An interesting detail: Mark Garagos is friends with Harvey Levin from TMZ and hosts a podcast called Two Angry Men. In one episode, he openly said Diddy is his friend. This led to a stern warning from Judge Aaron Subramanian, who strictly told Garagos not to discuss the case publicly or face sanctions. This was partly because Mark referred to the prosecution team as a six-pack of white women, a comment the court found unacceptable. Thanks to this talkative lawyer, we also learned about the defense fees. Each lawyer working for Diddy reportedly charges around $10 million for their services. Other members of the defense team include Alexandra Shapiro, an appeals expert known for defending rapper Young Thug in Georgia's longest-running trial; Xavier Donaldson, a former Bronx prosecutor now on the defense side, experienced in murder, rape, and domestic violence cases; Nicole Westmoreland, a lawyer and survivor of sexual abuse who joined the team on May 6th, likely to strengthen the defense's position with the jury by adding someone who can evoke sympathy; Anna Estevao, an active attorney who cross-examined prosecution witnesses, a partner at New York law firm Harris Trzaskoma LLP, and a former federal public defender in California; Jason Driscoll, a junior attorney helping with the case. Overall, the defense team is made up of federal-level pros with experience handling serious criminal cases and appeals all the way up to the Supreme Court. They know this will be a long fight and are preparing for every twist and turn. How exactly has the defense team built their line of defense? They need a clear, well-thought-out strategy to convince the jury that the charges are false, or, even worse, that the victims are to blame for what happened. This is a classic defense tactic in sexual abuse cases, blaming the victims by claiming they supposedly consented to everything that occurred. This approach is one of the harshest and most effective tools lawyers use when defending famous and powerful clients. What is victim blaming? It's when the responsibility for a crime or abuse is shifted onto the victim themselves. The victim gets accused, not always outright, but often through racist, sexist, and class-based biases. This phenomenon is linked to a cognitive bias called the just world belief. People find it hard to accept that terrible things can happen to anyone, often without cause. To ease this discomfort, they subconsciously think, if something bad happened to someone, it means they must be at fault. That's why victims are so often accused of causing or inviting abuse by behaving differently. One of the most revealing moments in the trial came when defense attorney Ana Estevao began cross-examining Cassie Ventura with the question, "Why did you keep going back to Diddy for 11 years?" Cassie's answer was both heartbreaking and chilling. She said she loved Diddy, trusted him, and felt responsible for being part of his intimate fantasies and wild parties. According to her, this was part of their relationship, something she agreed to because she believed in and respected him. For the defense, this was a chance to argue voluntariness and shift the blame away from their client. Why does this defense line cause so much outrage? Honestly, it's hard to watch without feeling pain and anger. How can anyone defend themselves by blaming teenagers who were exploited by adults? Even trying to stay open-minded, it becomes clear that the lawyers pick apart the victim's words, nitpicking every detail, trying to prove that the women supposedly benefited from being involved in these relationships. On the first day of the trial, Monday, all of Diddy's children showed up at the hearing. They walked into the courtroom holding hands, a moment that many people noticed and remembered. With them was Sean Combs' mother, Janice Combs, who has been attending every session from the very start. Sometimes she arrives a bit late, but her support for her son is clear. She stays in the courtroom even when the testimony gets very heavy and traumatic. When the victims' stories became so raw and painful that it was almost unbearable, Diddy's daughters left the courtroom. Obviously, it was too much for them to handle. On the side of Cassie Ventura, one of the key victims, her mother and lawyer Doug Wigdor were present in the courtroom. Cassie herself was also at the early hearings, supported by her family. Diddy's family, support and details. Diddy's side includes his whole family, his mother Janice and his sons Christian Combs, Quincy Brown, and Justin Combs. Diddy's daughters were present at the beginning of the trial, but stopped attending as the hearings went on. An interesting fact, Quincy Brown is the son of model Kim Porter from another man, but Diddy adopted him and raised him as his own. There's a lot of online discussion about how difficult things might be for Quincy because of this family situation. Some even say he feels like a hostage in this case. Whether that's true or not is unclear, but those rumors are widely talked about. You've probably seen the photo of Diddy making a heart shape with his hands. That was when he was addressing his children right there in the courtroom. During Cassie Ventura's testimony, he barely took his eyes off her, watching every word closely. Interestingly, Cassie never looked at him once, but her husband sitting beside her watched Diddy very closely. Many also noticed how Diddy nodded several times at his sons, as if silently sending them support and strength. He called them "my sons." Despite the heaviness of the situation, he even smiled when he saw his children. Janice Combs, Diddy's mother, has been a strong supporter since her son's arrest, publicly defending him. In 2024, she said her son is nothing like the monster he's being made out to be. She claimed he's being judged without the full story, almost as if there's no real trial at all. In the courtroom, Janice sits next to her son, listening to the horrific details and graphic testimonies, and she endures it all, showing incredible strength of spirit. One of the most important moments of the first week of the trial was the testimony of Cassie Ventura, one of the key witnesses. It was especially crucial to question her during this time, because she was due to give birth to her third child, a boy, shortly afterward. Imagine a pregnant woman going through enormous emotional and psychological stress, testifying in such a high-profile case, having to recall and share the most painful and difficult moments of her life. It was literally like turning her soul inside out. The cross-examination lasted the entire week, with both sides taking their turns. The prosecution was supportive and careful, but Diddy's defense lawyers, who were paid over $10 million, went all out, trying to find any weaknesses and put Cassie on the spot. In total, from Monday to Friday, May 16th, Cassie spent about 20 hours in court, telling her story in detail, and then went straight into labor. It's hard to imagine how difficult that was, but she made it through. After Cassie finished her testimony and went on maternity leave, her lawyer Doug Wigdor read her final statement aloud. Here's what Cassie said. "I want to thank everyone who has supported me throughout these years, especially in recent days. Your kind words and gestures of love and support have helped me get through this. I hope that by sharing my story, I can help other survivors feel they are not alone and inspire them to find their voice. The more I heal, the more I remember. And the more I remember, the more I will never forget. This experience will stay with me forever, and I hope it helps others too. It was a powerful and heartfelt farewell, full of hope and courage. During cross-examination, key witness Cassie Ventura shared an interesting story from 2013. According to her, Diddy, Sean Combs, took her phone away because he suspected she had been dancing with the famous singer Chris Brown. Diddy's defense lawyers even asked Cassie questions like, "Were you both jealous in this relationship?" It turned out that Diddy grabbed her phone to check her messages. This was just one of many times when Diddy's jealousy was clearly obvious. It's known that he was jealous of Cassie with other men too, like Kid Cudi and Michael B. Jordan. The defense presented a 2013 audio recording where Cassie tells a man who had a video of her from one of the freak-off parties, "I will fuck you up." Sounds threatening, but actually, it was simple. Cassie was afraid the video would be made public and used against her. According to her, Diddy regularly blackmailed her with these party videos that she was forced to record. So instead of trying to portray her as aggressive, this shows how trapped Cassie felt, held hostage by fear and pressure. During the trial, text messages between Cassie and Diddy were presented. The defense used these to try to prove that Cassie allegedly participated voluntarily in those freak-off parties. For example, some texts showed Ventura agreeing to take part in the so-called freak-off parties. One message read, "I'm always ready to freak," in response to Combs asking if she was ready for another party. Another message said, "I don't want to go to freak-off one last time," which the defense interpreted as her interest in continuing to attend these events. The defense made Cassie read these messages out loud to convince the court she agreed willingly. The tactic is clear, trying to show she was a willing participant. At the federal courthouse in New York, where the case against Sean Diddy Combs is currently being heard, singer and activist Jaguar Wright was spotted. She is not officially called as a witness in the case, but her presence there has sparked conversation. Jaguar Wright is known for her outspoken statements about the music industry's behind the scenes. She has previously spoken out about Diddy in interviews and podcasts, making bold claims about people who should be held accountable. Her phrase, "This is just the beginning, there's more to come," went viral. It's unclear why exactly she showed up at the courthouse. It might be a coincidence, or maybe she wanted to remind people of her warnings. So far, no official connection between her presence and the ongoing case has been confirmed. It's important to note that Cassie Ventura last saw Sean Combs in person in 2018 at the funeral of Kim Porter, Diddy's former partner and mother of his children. That death has also drawn attention, with its circumstances still being discussed in the media and on social networks, and many calling for a reopening of the investigation. The fact that 7 years have passed since that funeral adds context. Now, as old events resurface in court, figures like Jaguar Wright reappear, perhaps not by chance. During the trial against Sean Diddy Combs, singer Cassie Ventura testified, shedding light on how their relationship started and the circumstances surrounding it. Cassie said she met Combs when she was 19 and signed a 10-album contract in 2006. According to her, their intimate relationship began on a yacht in Miami, after which she felt like part of his life. She described her first adult relationship as unlike anything she had imagined, emphasizing that his lifestyle was very different from her own. Cassie also shared that early on, she was inexperienced sexually and didn't have the vocabulary to describe some of the things they talked about or did. She explained that she was with him for the same reasons many others were. He was interesting, fun, successful, and in control of her career. She felt special spending so much time with him. Behind Cassie stands not just support, it's a fortress built of love, faith, and resilience. Her husband, Alex Fine, is more than just an athlete and father to their children. He has become one of the quiet but strongest heroes in this entire story. During the hearings, Combs' defense tried to have Alex removed from the courtroom, claiming he showed aggression, but the court denied the request, and rightly so. If Cassie stays, why should he leave? He wasn't disruptive. He was simply there for her. On May 17th, right after Cassie finished testifying, Alex released a single statement that read like a letter of love and pain. Not weakness, but pride. The whole world witnessed my wife's strength and courage. I felt pride, love, and anger. Anger that she had to face again the person who tried to break her. But you didn't succeed. Neither you nor those who stood with you. Her spirit is unbroken. Her smile still lights up the room. She is the best mom to our girls, and she is the woman who made me better. Cassie saved Cassie. All I did was love her as she loves me. These words spread across social media. But if you think that's all, listen to what his mother, Pam Fine, Cassie's mother-in-law, said. "I'm proud that my granddaughters are being raised by the most loving and brave woman I know. And that support is no coincidence. Pam herself survived domestic abuse. Alex ran a marathon in honor of her and Cassie, to raise awareness about abuse and say, we won't be silent anymore." They are soon expecting a son, and meanwhile they are raising 2 daughters. Alex understands what women's pain feels like. He has seen it. He didn't turn away. He wasn't scared. He didn't try to fix anything. He just stayed by her side. And as those close to them say, Alex Fine fixed what he never broke. And once, when Cassie was on the edge, literally standing on a busy street, he was there. He held her back. He didn't just save her body. He helped keep her faith that love can be different. During her testimony, Cassie Ventura shared one of the most painful episodes of her life. According to her, in 2018, after having dinner with Sean Combs, he started acting strangely, as if he wasn't himself. Later that same night, Cassie alleges, he sexually assaulted her. This happened at their private residence. She also mentioned how her then-husband reacted. "He punched the wall when I told him," Cassie recalls. But her revelations didn't stop there. Cassie described shocking details about the so-called freak-off parties hosted by Combs. It all started with oil, baby oil. He insisted that every guest's skin be moisturized, so much so that Cassie would even warm the oil to make it feel warm. According to her lawyers, this fact is now being used by the defense against her, as if she were not a victim, but a willing participant. But she was only 22 years old at the time. She emphasizes, "I didn't feel like I could say no. I just wanted to make him happy. I was in love, very much." The routine at these parties was disturbingly consistent. Oil, touching, oral sex, intercourse, all happening under his supervision, often with invited escorts participating. According to Cassie, Sean called it voyeurism. He would watch her as she engaged intimately with others. The initiative always came from him. Cassie spoke about this with mixed emotions: love, fear, confusion. She still remembered wanting to believe this was love. But instead, she was surrounded by isolation and control. He decided who she could talk to, how to dress, and where to go. One of the most horrifying episodes is a story that is probably hard even to hear. Cassie recounted how, during one of these parties, Sean Combs ordered a man from the escorts to urinate in her mouth, without prior consent. No discussion, simply because he wanted it in that moment. When asked by lawyers if she gave consent, she answered clearly, "No, I didn't want anyone to do that to me at all." Her voice trembled as she recalled lying on the floor, helpless, raising her hands hoping he would notice. He saw but didn't stop. She described the experience as humiliating and emotionally devastating. She stressed it wasn't about the individual man but about the act itself. The violence, the loss of control, his cruel power. Cassie admitted that during many of these moments, she was under the influence of illegal substances, which made the situation even worse. She was often in a state where it was hard for her to even realize how far things had gone. Where did this happen? She listed the places where these freak-off parties took place: New York, Gramercy Hotel, Trump Soho, InterContinental, Miami, Mandarin Oriental, the Setai, Los Angeles, Beverly Hills Hotel, Shutters on the Beach. Cassie confessed that for a long time she simply didn't understand where the situation could lead her, but at the same time she felt responsible, as if it was a special sign of trust when Sean Combs shared such intimate things with her. Her role was to describe everything that happened in full detail. And according to him, that excited him. Although everything was deeply humiliating for Cassie, over time it became normal to her. She said the scenarios varied. Sometimes it was a threesome with Sean and an escort, sometimes he just watched. When asked how these sessions usually ended, Cassie said, sometimes Sean would say, "Let's go to another room to finish." And sometimes escorts were paid less if the finale didn't meet his fantasies. This meant Cassie's involvement went beyond participation. She was also responsible for selecting escorts and organizing these parties so everything looked exactly the way Sean wanted. During the trial, Cassie's text messages from 2017 were presented. In one message, she wrote that she was eagerly looking forward to another freak-off party. In another message, Cassie admitted she had forgotten her iPad, the device where, according to her, all these marathon sessions were recorded, and later those recordings were used for blackmail. The jury was also shown a message from Sean Combs with a provocative line, "Have fun, impress me." In their texts from May 2017, They discussed a trip to the Pleasure Chest, one of the most well-known adult stores, where Cassie bought everything she needed: oils, outfits, and party props. A sad and shocking detail, Cassie confessed that meetings with escorts, which were much smaller and quieter compared to the terrible freak-off parties, were actually a kind of break for her. After those marathons, she needed several days to physically and emotionally recover. She described these events as a job where there was no room for anything other than survival and trying to pull herself together before the next party. At these events, Cassie didn't sleep for days, used illegal substances, drank alcohol, and had sex with strangers. Sometimes these marathons lasted up to 4 days straight. The longest one, exactly 4 days, was the one she spoke about in court. Among the escorts involved in this dark circle, Daniel Phillips stands out, a non-anonymous witness who testified in court. He is currently 41 years old and worked alongside Cassie Ventura. Daniel described witnessing a disturbing scene at the Essex Hotel in New York. Cassie and Diddy went into the next room, and suddenly screams were heard. A few minutes later, Cassie ran out, jumped onto Daniel's lap, trembling and terrified to her core. Daniel admitted that the tension in the situation drained him of all energy, and he couldn't continue working. Diddy got angry, Cassie was scared. But then Daniel and Cassie started kissing. At that moment, Sean Combs himself entered the room and caught them together. He paid Daniel up to $6,000 for encounters with Cassie, while he watched everything unfold. After this incident, Daniel said he was very worried about Cassie. He saw her fear and tears, tried to help but felt powerless. She was scared and broken, he said. It was a shock for me. During the second week of hearings, fresh evidence came to light. Photos that captured public attention. They showed bruises and marks of abuse on Cassie's body from the time she was heavily involved in the freak-off parties. That was when she worked more as an escort than as a performer. Also released were photos of Johnson's baby oil bottles, medications, and suspicious substances found in Sean Combs' hotel room during his arrest in September 2024. Why are these photos important? Because Cassie described them herself. These are the props, she said. Baby oil held a special place. It was used to cover the bodies of party participants. Cassie explained, "This oil was very important. It made us shine. Our whole bodies had to glisten, and the oil was always warmed up. At one party, there was even an inflatable pool filled with oil, into which Cassie climbed fully dressed and wearing shoes. A risky and strange experience." Cassie also shared more. Even during her periods, she was forced to take part in these exhausting events. In texts to close contacts, she admitted often feeling terrible. Infections, sores, fatigue, and physical pain were normal after long, multi-day parties with alcohol, drugs, and sex with strangers. But the most horrifying part? Diddy Combs filmed everything. These recordings became tools of blackmail. During fights and threats to leave, Cassie feared the videos would be released. Diddy's lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, even petitioned Judge Aaron Subramanian to release all photos and videos from the parties, including footage showing Cassie in extremely compromising situations. The judge has yet to make a final decision, but Cassie's legal team is fighting hard to keep these materials sealed. They could destroy her reputation forever. During questioning, Cassie got nervous talking about the blackmail. "These videos will ruin everything I've built, and no one will take me seriously anymore." This is a stark example of how victims become trapped in a nightmare that's very hard to escape. After testifying, Cassie walked past Diddy without looking him in the eye once. It was a silent expression of pain and defiance. You're probably wondering, why is Sean Combs' criminal case being heard by a federal jury? It's simple. These are serious charges that could lead to real prison time, even life sentences. Under U.S. federal law, the accused has the right to a jury trial. This is guaranteed by the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution. Although Sean Combs could have waived his right to a jury and opted for a judge-only trial, his lawyers deliberately chose a jury. Why? Because jurors are people who can be influenced by emotions, doubts, and can be made to notice contradictions in testimony. It's an opportunity to play on human weaknesses and even victim blaming, placing some blame on the victim for what happened. In one of the strangest moments, Cassie shared that Diddy forced her to call him Pop Pop, a nickname that often appears in their messages. Imagine hearing, "Are you hungry, Pop Pop?" For her, it felt like mockery, because Pop Pop was what she called her own grandfather. She even admitted she regretted telling Sean about it, because Diddy insisted on that nickname. In her words, it was horribly disrespectful. Humiliation through these ridiculous name games. Why didn't you fight back? This is a question victims often hear. Why didn't you resist? Cassie explains. She was scared. According to her, Diddy could turn aggressive very quickly. There was a cold, unpredictable look in his eyes that made her shut down and not take any risks. Many times, she wasn't even given a chance to protest. Fear froze her body and mind. When Prosecutor Emily Johnson asked Cassie about physical abuse, she answered honestly and directly. Yes, it happened, many times. She described how he hit her head, knocked her down, dragged her, kicked her, and even stomped on her head when she fell. Her body showed bumps, bruised and swollen lips, black eyes, and redness around her eyes. When asked how often the abuse occurred, her answer was simple and terrifying. Too often. In the second week of the trial, a key witness stepped forward. Dawn Richard, a former member of the groups Danity Kane and Dirty Money. She ranks right after Cassie Ventura in importance and plays a crucial role in the case against Sean Combs, also known as P. Diddy. Dawn accuses Combs of very serious misconduct. Once he barged into her dressing room and touched her breasts and buttocks without her consent. More than that, Dawn says she personally witnessed him being violent toward Cassie. She gave a detailed account of a shocking incident in 2009. According to her, it started with a small argument in the kitchen. Supposedly, Cassie had made breakfast the wrong way for Combs, but it quickly escalated into aggression. He hit Cassie on the head, kicked her, grabbed her by the hair, and dragged her upstairs. The next day, as if nothing had happened, he invited Dawn and a colleague to the studio, saying that what she had seen was just an expression of passion, and anyone who said otherwise would simply be erased from his life. Dawn Richard's testimony reveals two important aspects of her claims. The first is a business dispute. Dawn claims that Sean Combs, as a producer, didn't pay her the money she was owed and broke agreements despite her contributions and work. This is a separate civil matter tied to business conflicts. The second, much more serious, involves allegations of physical and sexual harassment. Dawn describes how Combs regularly humiliated her, forced her to strip down to her underwear, insulted her, touched her without permission, and invaded her personal space, including the time he burst into her dressing room and groped her. One especially shocking incident happened in 2010 in Glasgow, when he gave her artificial breast implants as a Christmas gift, grabbed her chest, and said a creepy phrase, "You've got an A cup now, but I need a D." Besides that, Dawn confirmed she personally saw Sean Combs being violent toward Cassie Ventura. Her testimony is a crucial link in the case, revealing the dark side of life in the world of fame and power. According to Dawn Richard, she wasn't the only one who saw Sean Combs treat Cassie Ventura brutally. Other stars were present. Dawn said that once, during a dinner with several celebrities including Usher and rapper Ne-Yo, Sean punched Cassie in the stomach. The dinner was surrounded by friends and industry colleagues, and Dawn claims Usher and Ne-Yo witnessed the aggression firsthand. Dawn also shared how Dirty Money was preparing for their debut. She, her colleague Kalena Harper, and Cassie Ventura were at Sean Combs' house when Dawn heard a scream. She looked out and saw Sean hit Cassie in the face. Cassie cried, but quickly ran to the bathroom to cover up the bruises with makeup. At subsequent shows and festivals, Cassie wore sunglasses, and Dawn and Kalena Harper supported her by wearing sunglasses in solidarity. In court, the defense repeatedly tried to limit the topics Dawn could discuss, claiming her statements were just rumors and personal grudges. But Dawn kept revealing new details that made listeners think twice. Dawn revealed that Sean Combs not only used violence, but also threatened her. "You want to die today? I make people disappear, I finish people." In 2010, Sean's bodyguards locked Dawn inside his Bentley, with no door handles, in darkness, and no heating. Dawn feared for her life and called her father from Baltimore to come save her. After that, Combs warned her, "Think about your family and don't call your dad if you don't want to end up in the hospital." Dawn also accused Combs of mental and physical pressure, driving her to a nervous breakdown with constant insults, calling her lazy and unwilling to work. She stated that Sean hosted parties with underage girls where illegal drugs were used and terrible things happened, and the women couldn't leave without permission. Cross-examination, defense tries to undermine witness credibility. A key part of the trial was the cross-examination of Dawn Richard by young attorney Nicole Westmoreland. The defense tried to show that Dawn's testimony changed 4 times and that she was an unreliable witness. Dawn explained she was just trying to recall events from many years ago as accurately as possible. However, Combs' lawyers tried to portray Dawn as a vengeful person motivated by her civil lawsuit to destroy Sean's career. But all of this looks doubtful given the serious accusations and the testimony she provides. How did Cassie Ventura respond to the scandalous video showing a beating at the InterContinental Hotel in Los Angeles, which Diddy's team released in 2016? Cassie gave a detailed account of what happened after Sean Combs grabbed her and dragged her back into the hotel room. That night, they were having a party, and an escort service was nearby. Cassie says she tried to leave while Diddy was in the shower but doesn't remember all the details. She only knows she had a bruise under her eye from the hit. She recalls thinking about only one thing, getting out alive. She had important work obligations and a premiere coming up, and couldn't afford to have her face messed up. Grabbing her things, she rushed to the elevators, slipped on her sneakers. Then suddenly, someone grabbed her roughly by the neck and threw her to the floor. What the video shows is Cassie lying on the floor, covering her face with her hands to protect herself from more blows. She believed that was the safest way. Then Diddy dragged her around the corner, back into the room. Officer Israel Florez, who responded to the call that night, testified in court that he was working as security at the hotel in 2016. Under close scrutiny from Sean Combs, he admitted that Combs tried to bribe him with a wad of cash to cover up the incident. Florez described Cassie Ventura in terrible shape, with a large bruise under her eye lying near a broken vase with flowers. According to the officer, Cassie repeatedly said she didn't want to call the police. She just wanted to leave as soon as possible. Cassie also shared some interesting details. Former Bad Boy Records head Tony Fletcher sometimes booked rooms for parties, and Cassie often reserved rooms under the fake name Jackie Starr. Sean used aliases like Frank White or Frank Black to hide his bookings. The case also includes another victim, a witness testifying under the pseudonym Jane Doe. She testified that in 2020, Sean Combs coerced her into having sex with escorts without protection. During opening statements, attorney Emily Johnson described how Diddy allegedly violently attacked Jane, hitting her in the face, and when she curled up on the floor, he started hitting her even harder. These were her harsh and serious allegations. Why did Cassie Ventura take $20 million but still go to court? This is one of the most common questions, and it's often misunderstood. Let's break it down. Cassie did agree to accept a large sum from Sean Combs, around $20 million, as compensation for the emotional harm she suffered. Remember, she initially approached him with the idea to write a book about their relationship and how it affected her. In the end, they settled out of court to prevent the memoir from being published. She received the money pretty quickly. They resolved everything in one day. But in 2023, Cassie sent him a draft of the book, and then she got no response. That's when she filed an official lawsuit, which triggered a serious federal investigation with multiple accusations against Diddy. This case is now at the federal level, much more serious than just reputation issues or a book dispute. Once you become a witness or victim in a federal investigation, you can't simply back out. All the talk about money and memoirs becomes irrelevant. This is about federal crimes. So why did Cassie take the money but still go to court? Legally, it's complicated, but morally, she basically said, "Thanks for the money, but we'll see you in court." I would return that money if it meant I'd never have to face those awful parties and that whole toxic environment again. If I had freedom and independence, if I didn't have to fight so hard to get my dignity back, I'd give the money back without a second thought. When the conflict started, Cassie Ventura already had a steady income. She earned between $7,000 and $20,000 hosting parties at LA clubs and was a successful model. She was financially independent, but the main issue wasn't money. It was Sean Combs' total control. Abusers often try to dominate by taking personal belongings or restricting freedom. Cassie has shared how Diddy would send his bodyguard, D-Rock, to take her things. And when she tried to leave, D-Rock would find her and bring her back. Why didn't she leave sooner? Because every attempt was met with violence and threats, like the well-known hotel incident at the InterContinental caught on camera, which was just the tip of the iceberg in their relationship. One of the most frightening facts is that Sean ordered the explosion of rapper Kid Cudi's car, who had been involved with Cassie. This wasn't just a threat. The car actually exploded, but luckily no one was hurt. Recently, Kid Cudi, real name Scott Mescudi, gave crucial testimony in the case against Sean Combs. He confirmed that in 2012, Diddy threatened to blow up his car after learning about his relationship with Cassie. Moreover, Kid Cudi said Diddy openly stated he wanted him to be home when the explosion happened. The explosion did happen near Kid Cudi's house, confirmed by his official representatives. Kid Cudi also described the atmosphere of fear and pressure. Diddy's actions seemed like attempts to intimidate and control through violence. His testimony became a key part of the case, which involves RICO charges investigating systematic threats and crimes used to achieve certain goals. Kid Cudi said Diddy threatened not only him but also Cassie, her family, controlled her finances, and literally kept her life under his control. An interesting detail, Cassie Ventura named several key Sean Combs employees who helped cover up the aftermath of the so-called freak-off party. These trusted aides include Christina Coram and Neil Dominique. Christina Coram wasn't just an assistant, she was the main organizer of these events. According to Cassie, she managed everything, from preparations to getting Sean into the right work mood. She handled planning, logistics, and even hiding evidence after scandals. A parallel can be drawn. If Jeffrey Epstein had Ghislaine Maxwell as his right-hand woman in crimes, then Christina Coram is kind of the Ghislaine in Diddy's case. Official court documents mention high-ranking people from Sean Combs' circle, but their names remain confidential for now. Christina Coram isn't officially charged yet, but is expected to be questioned. Even more curious, Christina Coram is already involved in another lawsuit. Producer Rodney Jones, who also filed a sexual harassment suit against Combs, mentioned her name in his paperwork. Her role in these cases might be deeper than it appears at first glance. In the case against Sean Diddy Combs, shocking new details are coming to light. One former employee, George Kaplan, gave explosive testimony, revealing how he helped clean up after private parties at luxury hotels in Los Angeles and New York. Kaplan claims his job went far beyond a typical assistant's duties. He allegedly personally cleaned hotel rooms after Combs' stays, finding all kinds of items proving wild parties, from oils and drinks to strange powders. He also said he always carried a special kit in case the boss suddenly felt unwell. Kaplan added that he worked over 100 hours a week, running personal errands and delivering orders, which he said could cost him his job if he refused. So, what's the current status of the case against Sean Diddy Combs? The main part of the trial is still ahead, but we can already draw some early conclusions. Diddy's defense has chosen a clear strategy: a total denial of the accusations made by Cassie Ventura. The artist's lawyers presented messages and texts in court that they say prove Cassie willingly took part in what happened back then, and even showed initiative herself. The defense's main focus is, did Cassie participate voluntarily? Did she help organize the parties? Who was really the initiator of the contacts? This is all part of a big puzzle, and officially we see only a piece of the picture so far. But it's clear, the trial will be complicated, emotional, and full of unexpected twists. What do you think? Will there be people behind the scenes who haven't spoken up yet? Share your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think will reveal something important in court? Thanks for watching until the end. Please like the video if you want more content on this case, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes. See you soon.